This isn't fringe. The UAP Disclosure Act is being reintroduced by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, along with Senator Mike Rounds and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, all of whom sit on Intelligence and Armed Services committees. These are top-level lawmakers with access to the most classified briefings in government. This marks the third time the UAP Disclosure Act has been brought forward in Congress, but only once has it made it into law, and that version was heavily gutted. The original full-strength act was first introduced in 2023 with bipartisan support, aiming to mandate government transparency on UAPs and establish an independent review process. But during NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, negotiations later that year, key provisions were stripped out under pressure from intelligence-aligned lawmakers. Now in 2025, Senators Schumer, Rounds, and Gillibrand are reintroducing the full act, pushing to finally pass the version that was previously blocked before it could become law. In December of 2023, Liberation Times published an article titled Operation Kill Bill: How World-Changing UFO Language Was Killed and Sliced Up into Little Pieces. Here is an excerpt highlighting exactly how the first attempt at the UAP Disclosure Act was gutted, and I quote, "The independent review board dedicated to the disclosure of UFO UAP information and materials, killed. The authority of eminent domain wielded by the U.S. federal government over any materials or biological evidence of unknown or non-human origin, killed. New whistleblower and witness protections, killed. Enforcement of subpoena, killed. Amnesty provision for defense contractors and other entities in possession of UAP-related material involved in illegalities, killed. Even Senator Chuck Schumer, the influential Senate leader, along with many others within Congress, couldn't break through the barriers of secrecy shrouding UAP. But this was a battle within a much larger war being fought. One person recently told Liberation Times that the killing of the wide-ranging UAP language contained within the Senate's NDAA was comparable to military jets flying over hostile territory to identify enemy radar systems. Those hostile to transparency and democratic oversight are now known. To provide a few examples, according to multiple Liberation Times sources, they are Lockheed Martin, Representative Mike Turner, chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Mike Rogers, chair of the House Armed Services Committee, Representative Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Senator Mitch McConnell, Minority Senate Leader, Senator Roger Wicker, Ranking Member of the Senate's Armed Services Committee. Sources indicate that the CIA and defense contractors pinpointed the key politicians named above, who were able to thwart other members of Congress, including Senators Schumer and Mike Rounds, who are understood to have fought hard to pass the language intact. End quote. Here's a clip from Fox News published on June 6, 2023, about 6 months before the UAP Disclosure Act was gutted. It clearly demonstrates Representative Mike Turner's antagonistic stance toward the UFO issue.
Brett, this has been a story since the 1960s. Really, every decade, there's been individuals who've said that the United States has such pieces of unidentified flying objects that are from outer space. There's no evidence of this, and certainly, it would be quite a conspiracy for this to be able to be maintained, especially at this level.
So, if it's quite a conspiracy, unfounded, there's nothing to hide. There's nothing to see in regards to non-human intelligences being recovered, their bodies or craft being recovered, lying to Congress, lying to the American public about UAP. If none of that has any substance to it, then the incentive to pass the UAP Disclosure Act should be overwhelming, because it is the closest thing we could ever achieve to falsifying the long-held, multi-decade stories about crash retrievals and cover-ups. So it is beyond me. It is literally beyond me that there's so much antagonism to pass this act that could establish the highest level of evidence against these theories. Now, the rebuttal a skeptic might make, which is so utterly annoying and bordering on dishonest, is, well, people will believe anyways. Yeah, so what? Have you seen the media? Have you seen the media over the past 7+ years, since December 16th, 2017, when the New York Times article came out? The media treats the UFO issue completely different than it did prior to that date. Congress treats the UAP issue entirely different prior to that date versus how they treat it after this date. And I think there's no question that if the UAP Disclosure Act were to pass in full without being gutted with all the important provisions, and it was implemented and they came back saying, we found nothing, we did the full investigation, we subpoenaed people, we had the UAP review board and all the other important provisions, and they come back and say, we found nothing, we did everything we could. Are there going to be some people that are still going to believe no matter what? Of course there are. But would it kill, would it absolutely eviscerate the amount of time and the amount of credibility that the media has been giving to the UFO issue? Yes, it would. Absolutely. Because after that, how do you reestablish credibility on the issue? I don't know how you would do it. So if I was a skeptic, or if I was part of the government and I wanted this all to go away, and I truly believed or knew there was nothing to see here, it would be in my absolute best interest to get the UAP Disclosure Act passed, and I would be highly motivated to do so. On July 29th, Senator Mike Rounds, who sits on both the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, discussed the reintroduction of the UAP Disclosure Act on Cota Territory News. I'm going to play that clip, and then we're going to discuss it.
On the other hand, there are some items out there that, after vetting, either they're telling us a heck of a story or they truly don't know what it is. But it is phenomenal in terms of its capabilities, in terms of speed. Some of these objects, the speed at which it moves, the direction, the easy way in which it can change directions, the fact that it can be in both underwater and in the air, and it can apparently move to very, very high altitudes as well in a very short period of time. And these folks that are giving this information and with the technologies that we've got today, they're not making this stuff up. There's something there, we just don't know what it is.
I was going to say, from the sources that the way you're describing these sources, it sounds like, they have your trust, and that what they're telling you is at least truth to them, for what they've seen. Yeah, and there's no reason for them to come in to try to tell us stories. These are folks that are very, very capable. They are brilliant individuals. They fear sometimes that if their whole story got out, they'd lose their jobs. They don't want that to happen. So they'll come in and they'll visit with us in a classified setting with just one or two or three of us there. And our agreement is we will not disclose, and we won't let it get back to their either the contractor that they work for or to the department that they work for.
Let's quickly review some of what Senator Rounds said so that I can give my commentary. He stated, after vetting, either they're telling us a heck of a story or they truly don't know what it is, but it's phenomenal in terms of its capabilities, in terms of speed. Some of these objects, the speed at which it moves, the direction, the easy way in which it can change directions, the fact that it can be in both underwater and in the air, and it can apparently move to very, very high altitudes as well in a very short period of time. So Senator Rounds is explicitly referencing transmedium technologies. That is technologies that are able to go underwater, come out of water, and in some cases, I don't know if he was referencing that, but also go into space, come from space into our atmosphere, from our atmosphere into the ocean or into lakes. This has been discussed a lot by various witnesses, whistleblowers. Another thing he stated in that clip is, and I quote, "They're not making this stuff up. There's something there. We just don't know what it is," end quote. So that's kind of the safe approach, maybe even we could argue the most intellectually honest approach. In the context of witnesses are coming forward, there's a historical record about exotic technologies surpassing anything known to be created by humankind. The technologies are exotic, they're outperforming known technologies, but at the same time, we can't definitively say where they originate. One last quote from Senator Rounds, and I quote, "There's no reason for them to come in to try to tell us stories. These are folks that are very, very capable. They are brilliant individuals. They fear sometimes that if their whole story got out, they'd lose their jobs." So I really think that underscores that there's no incentive for these people to come forward. These are not low-paying jobs. These are high-paying jobs. These are people with high security clearances trusted by corporations and governments. And in fact, Mike Rounds said that some of the witnesses come from departments within the government and some are from contractors. So these are multifaceted witnesses from various sources. And you look at David Grush, as I recall, he lost his pension and he can't work in the government anymore. And that's where he was making a very legitimate living, great benefits. And now that has been severed because he decided to come forward. Look at Matthew Brown. He was a full-time employee at the Pentagon. Gone since he's came forward. He said, as I recall, even if he was able to enter this line of work again, he would be a marked person and probably would not move up the ladder much, if you will. In the following clip, Askapol, Matt Laszlo, was able to talk with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is supporting the UAP Disclosure Act along with Rounds and Gillibrand. And I'm going to play that clip, and then we're going to discuss it.
How you reintroduced your UAPDA?
Yes, I did.
Why? What's the importance of that?
Gotta let people know the truth, whatever it is.
Do you think it'll be easier to get it included without Mike Turner around?
Yeah, let's hope you better change this.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, that clip went live on July 31st, so that's very recent news, yesterday. So Matt Laszlo asked Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer something like, "You're going to reintroduce the UAPDA. What's the importance of that?" Chuck Schumer responded, "Gotta let people know the truth, whatever it is." And that's the crux of it, isn't it? We just want to know the truth, whatever it is. It's that simple. Then Matt stated, "Do you think it'll be easier to get it included into the NDAA without Mike Turner around?" And Chuck Schumer responded, "Yeah, let's hope we have a better chance." I guess that's a good thing. Sounds like a good thing to me. I don't think Mike Turner is around anymore. I showed you a clip earlier of Mike Turner being antagonistic to the UFO issue. I'm not going to go deep into the current situation of what opposition we have, what opposition we don't have. I'd have to do the research for that, but well, maybe in another video we can cover that. Let's close this out with a clip where Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp are interviewing UFO whistleblower Matthew Brown. He really crystallizes the sacrifices that UFO whistleblowers are willing to make, have made, and will continue to make.
Is there strength in numbers then in that regard?
Yes, and if all of us die or imprisoned, the seeds have been planted, more will come.
Well, those seeds have been planted about deaths in the whistleblower community. Those stories circulate, I would imagine, pretty quickly among you and people you know.
Yeah, but I'm still here.
You think anybody has been killed because they knew too much on this topic?
Yes, I believe and I think, and I could probably help someone else prove it. Mm-hmm. But lethal action has been taken against people that tried to get the truth out. Or maybe we're just considered wild cards, not able to be efficiently controlled, no longer useful. I think once you taste the darkness, you like using it.
They don't have to kill you. They could discredit you some way.
Oh, yeah.
Manufacture something.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get this straight. There are powerful influences that don't want the UAP Disclosure Act to get passed, which is why it has struggled to get passed. Hopefully it gets passed this time around. UFO whistleblowers have come forward over decades talking about harassment as a consequence of them trying to speak soberly and honestly about the UAP issue. And yet there's nothing to see here. Well, if there's nothing to see here, then why the antagonism? Why the harassment? Why the pushback? Doesn't make any sense. If there was nothing to see here, this is not what you would expect. If there is something to see here, and there are interests that don't want this to go public, this is exactly what you would expect. But as George Knapp and Matthew Brown said, there's strength in numbers, and this does not end. And more are coming. And I'm grateful to our whistleblowers for coming forward. Because theoretically, if no whistleblower was willing to come forward and there truly was a cover-up of non-human intelligences and their craft, then we would just be in blissful ignorance forevermore. So good on our whistleblowers. Good on members of Congress pushing to get more hearings. The next hearing is expected in September. Good on everyone trying to bring awareness to this topic. Documentarians, writers, YouTubers, podcasters, any and everyone on X, anyone at all. Because the worst thing that happens if this is a giant mind virus is, well, this is just a manifestation of human fallibility. But the worst thing that happens if this is all real, and we are being kept from understanding our true place in the universe, is catastrophic, dire, and tragic, and completely unethical. So I'm not too worried about the mind virus. If there is a mind virus, and I bet heavily against that. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below. Or you could just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all YouTube members, patrons, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.